Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Livestream Stars. I'm Ross Brand. Livestream Stars is the show where we feature talented broadcasters delivering high-quality content across live stream platforms. And tonight's guest is Rebekah Radice. She's a blogger at RebekahRadice.com. She's one of the top 5 social media bloggers, according to Social Media Examiner, the CMO at Post Planner, co-host of Influencer Chat, 8 p.m. Tuesday evenings, I think that is, right?
You got it.
On Twitter, and the author of How to Use Social Media to Virtually Crush the Competition. And most recently has been an on-air personality for CBS TV in Los Angeles, talking about the Super Bowl and social media. And I figure that's a great way to warm up for tonight's appearance. But for those people who are outside the LA area, talk a little bit about what your observations were, what you shared with people in your TV appearances.
Yeah, so Friday we talked about what was trending, what people were talking about, what people were looking forward to as far as the Super Bowl. So what was being said on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, all across, the web. And then today we did a whole follow-up. So we did 2 different segments in the 5 o'clock and the 6 o'clock hour, and focused on just everything that went on over, the 24-hour span of the Super Bowl. The hype. It's just so crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
So what was the commercial everybody was focused on? What was like the most popular commercial?
Oh, well, that's tough. I think the Mountain Dew one was definitely talked about, even though I thought it was kind of creepy. People seem to love it. What is it? Monkey puppy baby? I keep trying to get it correct.
There was like a fair number of people who didn't like it either. I mean, there's just a lot of chatter.
They're right. Well, and so they did their job, right? They got talked about exactly. No matter how you looked at it. Yeah. And
I guess the other one of the big things I saw this morning were the photos of Eli Manning when his brother threw the final pass for a touchdown, or for the 2-point conversion, I think it was, after that last touchdown, and he's not smiling. And I think he's just, he knows how much more is left. Like, for him, 3 minutes it's not done yet. But people made a big deal, like he wasn't happy his brother was going to have as many Super Bowls as he did.
Yeah, sometimes I think that's just the media making something up where there's probably not. Any brother is going to be happy for his brother.
Right.
But yes, that has definitely been a very big deal. I thought Cam Newton and walking out on his interview might have been a little bit bigger, but wasn't as big as some of the news, like, Beyonce and Lady Gaga, of course, was huge across social media. Betty White, I don't know if you saw that tweet, was super cute.
I didn't see that one.
Yeah. Betty White she was actually in the intro to the Super Bowl, and then she had tweeted out, and I think she has, 75,000 retweets, showing Cam Newton how to do his thing. So it was, you'll have to go check it out. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. So one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is visual marketing. When I look at your website, it's like an example of how you do visual marketing. It's so striking. Mm-hmm. All the color, from the color scheme to how you lay out your blog posts, how you use images. In fact, I started using Relay for my images. I remember you had recommended, you were on another blab, and you'd recommended a bunch of different tools to use. And so I checked out different tools. And when I was like, well, do I want to try Relay or not? Do I want to get the subscription? And then I saw your picture there, and I just said, okay, that's going to be the one I'm going to do. So, as you can see, like, I'm doing my show cards now all, with Relay.
Awesome.
And so I guess to bring this all together, it's not that hard. You don't have to be, I could never color between the lines in school or anything like that. You don't have to be an artist to create good visual content for your website and for your blog. So tell people a little bit kind of how you got into doing that, and how you've developed like over the years to where now your website just stands out as like, you know, among the best visual entities on the web.
Oh, well, first of all, thank you very much for that. I really appreciate that. You know, it's been an evolution for sure. Where it started, and just to back up a little bit, so I started blogging in 2004. And, you know, back when we probably, as I recall, didn't even call it blogging,
Right.
probably more like journaling. And for me, having always been a writer, I just loved the idea of being able to put my ideas out there and share those with the world. But at the time, just thinking this little community of people that might actually like what I write about. And you know, so it was understanding what, who I was, what I was about, what I was writing about, who my audience was, and then identifying what my brand felt like to me. And when I first started to really figure that out, I was working with somebody on my branding, just to get a better feeling of just everything that goes into it, you know, color theory and the psychology behind it, and down to the fonts and design of my logo, you name it. And I got a lot of pushback from everybody that I was talking with about the color orange. And I kept getting, you know, orange is a little off-putting. It can be too bright. It can be overwhelming. And I said, but you know what? To me, it's vibrant. It's fun.
Right.
It's my personality, at least what I envision it need to be, I guess. And people agreed with that. But they didn't necessarily agree with orange being the right color. And I'll tell you what, that was the single best decision I made, was going against all of that advice and sticking with the color orange, because it really, I think, has defined my brand. And to me, I love everything about it. So yeah, you know, like I said, it's been a work in progress, but once I nailed down that orange color, boy, I'll tell you, everything changed as far as my graphics, really kind of nailing down the design for those. And those have evolved too. And a lot of that has been because social media and image sizes have shifted and continued to change. But that, I think, you know, for most people is probably the one thing you overlook when you start your company or you're an entrepreneur and you get out there. You're just so excited to put yourself out there. You forget how important it is to establish your visual brand. And I, you know, for me, I guess I've always been a visual person, taught myself. I'm totally self-taught on Photoshop, no schooling whatsoever. So you will never hear me call myself a designer, because designers are freaking amazing. And I work with several of them, but yeah, you know, it's a hard thing, I think, for most people to really figure out what your brand is all about. But it is so important, and I am so grateful that I did that early on and really did, you know, figure it out. But not just that, stuck with it.
And the orange stands out. I mean, because it's not the color that you see on every website. So it's like you see orange, you go, there's one of Rebekah's images, or that's her thing. It's like it immediately catches your attention in a sea of blues and reds and blacks and
I think so whites. Too. There's like a few of us. There's me, there's Pam Moore, there's Content Marketing Institute. So I figure I'm in really good company with the color orange. But you're right, there's just not very many people using it.
And I think it also comes across nicely on a computer. I don't know if it comes across different, you know what I mean? Like there's the theory of color and what different colors mean and everything. But yet the way certain colors come across on a computer with a light behind it, I think is different than the way you see them, I don't know, on a piece of clothing or on a, you know, painted on a wall or something like that. So I think the orange really stands out in a very positive way.
Oh, well, thank you. I think so too.
So, when you put together a blog post, can you talk a little bit about the different visual elements? Because people are usually focused, first of all, on the writing, then they're focused on getting a couple of photos maybe, or creating an image. But what are the essential visual elements that you feel should go into a blog post?
Oh, wow. Well, there are so many. I think really you're only limited by your creativity. There's so many different elements we can use these days. Everything from embedding a video like we're doing right here, with the blab, getting that over onto YouTube and just grabbing that code and dropping that down into your blog post, to, any of the images that you're sharing across social media. So maybe it's Facebook or Instagram, maybe it's a tweet. And embedding those so that you're cross-promoting all of your different social networks. It could be an infographic. So at Post Planner, we do a lot of repurposing. We'll take a blog post, for example, that was very popular, very high trafficked article, and we'll turn that into an infographic. And then maybe we'll write a whole new article around that infographic and then embed that infographic right in there. So there's just so many different ways that you can use visual elements within your blog posts. And I think there's a lot of different reasons. You would want to, first of all, it's, images are, they capture our attention, they hold our attention, they give us something to share, but they also give us a way to consume information in a very different way. So whether you want people to pin that over on Pinterest or watch that video, whatever the case might be, you can use so many different types of media to engage a very different audience.
And so the key is making it easy for the reader to share it. Like when I look at some of your blog posts, the work's already done. The tweet is written. The image is Pinterest friendly. You're saying, if you're going to do me the favor and share this, I'm going to do you the favor and make it easy for you to share this. And I'm going to make sure that the image looks good. I'm going to make sure the tweet is already written. Like, everything is there that I would need to share one of your articles without even thinking about how I go about doing it, right? I mean, that's a big part, I think, of what you do.
Yeah.
And so, okay.
Sorry, I was going to say, I think you make an excellent point, is do not make your readers hunt and peck to either find something to share because you haven't created a featured image, or don't make it difficult on them to take that content and tweet it out. Or take that content and pin it to Pinterest. I see that so often, where you write this great blog post and then you make it difficult for people to share it. And adding those great visual elements will make it just super, super simple and a no-brainer for people, where they come, they read it, they're like, this is fantastic, I got to share it with my audience. So give them an easy way to do that. And I think that's a point that is often overlooked, because as writers, we write this great piece and we're like, woohoo, I write the greatest piece I've ever written. And then you forget that there are other key elements to that are going to allow people to help you spread or forward that message.
Right. And so where does video come in for you? Where does video marketing now come in, both for blogging and just for general personal branding and business use?
I think for the most part, it's live streaming. I am in love with this type of a format. We started with Google Hangouts, and I think Blab really became everything that we ever hoped Hangouts would be. And I love the interactive nature, but you look at, in fact, I just wrote an article on Post Planner about Facebook Live video, which just rolled out to anybody in the US with iOS. And being in LA, I was one of the 2 cities, I believe, that had they had opened that up to
Right.
within their beta, and shame on me, I hadn't taken advantage of it because I've been heavily invested here in Blab, doing at least one, if not two Blabs per week. But I think, as businesses, you can look at just about anywhere, from Google Hangouts to Blab to Periscope to Meerkat to Facebook Live video now. There's so many different options that there's no reason that you shouldn't be using video. And I've always been an enormous fan of video. But for me,
Right.
and if you read my blog, I don't do anything without a strategy. And I've just had so many other things with my blog happening that I really couldn't focus heavily enough on implementing a solid strategy up until Blab. So I've been slow to adopt Periscope. And I'll be honest, I think the big reason for me on that is I had a tough time with the lack of interactiveness on a Periscope
Right. I find it
or a
the same.
Meerkat.
For me, it's the same kind of thing. I like this. I like talking to people and hearing, either how they're reacting to what I'm saying or learning from them or whatever. And doing a soliloquy doesn't really interest me, but I think it's a very valuable tool, Periscope, and I'm sure at some point I'm going to start using it because not everybody has to do the same thing on Periscope, and I think we're going to see people coming up with new and different and really more short form uses of Periscope. What do you see just in big picture for live streaming? Like, what do you think 2016 is going to bring? What's going to be different this year from what we've seen?
Well, I think you're going to see more and more brands embracing live streaming. I think there was a fear to it. We saw it happening in 2015, with just the enormous rise in popularity with Periscope, Meerkat, Snapchat. My goodness. Just unbelievable, the adoption rates on all of those platforms. And I think brands, some still really were hesitant in the legalities and privacy and just so many different aspects of it. But I think we're going to see it really take off. And those that embrace it, especially here in, Q1, Q2, of 2016 are going to be way ahead of the competition and the visibility opportunities. When you think about it as a marketer and you think through the marketing funnel and just that huge awareness opportunity of getting face to face with your customer base, getting face to face with your audience in a totally different way than you've been able to previously. Sure, you're creating conversation on Facebook or on Twitter or on Instagram, but now with live streaming where they can interact with you in real time and ask you questions. And there's just so many different ways that you're going to be able to look at using that I think, again, we're going to see another huge wave of adoption across live streaming. And obviously, Facebook has seen the opportunity. They had launched live streaming with the Mentions app. And initially it kind of looked like if you weren't a celebrity, if you weren't somebody that was very well known, that the rest of us weren't going to get it. And so they've definitely seen the light.
Right. Yeah. Tim says in the chat box, the genuine connection and the ability to shine real personality is the power of live streaming. And that really hits the nail on the head. One thing I'm wondering, you're not seeing a lot of brands, I don't think right now, using Blab. Perhaps a few are getting into maybe sponsoring Blabs. But do you think that brands are going to get into actually hosting Blabs? I think a Blab would be a great way for somebody to demonstrate a product that's already on the market to people who purchased it and say, here's some features you don't know. And then other people could come in and see for the first time how it works, and then maybe they're interested in buying, and then they can repurpose. I mean, I think there's things that brands can do. I know Blab, let's be honest. I mean, we both worked in radio, and you worked in television. I mean, this is a small audience even compared to most college radio stations at this time.
Yeah.
The connection that you make is very strong. And so if you're trying to network and you're trying to reach people and you just enjoy the social conversation, Blab is a wonderful forum. But is it too small a field right now for brands to play in when it comes to deciding to put their own talent on air or to hire other people to, either pitch their product or host a show around content related to the larger theme of their business? I know that was kind of a mouthful.
No, it was a terrific question, because I think there's a lot to think about there. There's a lot to think about depending on, what size. Are you a big brand? Are you, small to mid-sized company? Small to mid-sized companies, I think, have embraced Blab. I think because so many were already on Hangouts and were looking for that next best thing, something that gave them.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, when you say small, we're seeing solopreneurs and very small, like consultants, solo marketers, marketing consultants, small business consultants, people like that, coaches, somebody who provides a service as an individual. Are we seeing brands like companies? I mean, we're seeing people with their personal brand on here, but are we seeing companies? I know Mitch Jackson, I think he's still watching. He has a couple of sponsors for his show, which is amazing. That's an amazing breakthrough for a Blab show. But beyond sponsoring a show, I'm not seeing like a brand that's selling a product. But I could be wrong, and I can't possibly watch everything that's on Blab. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to get that out there. It's because we need to distinguish, right? Like to distinguish between individuals selling a service and a company selling a product, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I honestly, I don't see brands embracing it at the level that we're seeing those small to mid-sized businesses. For the most part, where are they going to go? They're going to go where they can put their advertising dollars, and they're going to get the biggest bang for that buck. And Instagram is definitely that place. Snapchat is still, while it's an emerging market, in my opinion, is for those, like Taco Bell, that are just killing it, in my opinion, over there on Snapchat. You look at, BuzzFeed and so many others that have created just incredible campaigns on Snapchat. What Taco Bell just did with the Super Bowl over on Snapchat, I think we're going to see more of that, more moving towards the direction of Snapchat than, say, a forum like this. I think they've got a lot of opportunity there with the advertising money that they can put into it, and just the creativity that's coming out of those campaigns. Very different setting than what we're seeing here today.
Right. But for individuals and people, with a small business or providing a service as an individual, this is a great forum because first of all, it's free, right? It's free, and you can reach the people who are interested specifically in what you do. And you don't, if for instance, you have a business where you need clients, you don't need 10,000 clients to have a successful business. So if you're reaching people who are interested in marketing and interested in social media and interested in coaching and things like that, this is a great forum. So I'm interested to see like where it's going to go next, because I'm seeing like a little bit of a dip now, right? Like people who had gone in very heavily into Blab, kind of backing off, some people cutting down their involvement or either not guesting on shows or not this one, of course, we have no trouble, but most shows, but I'm saying like some people have made the decision not to put as much into Blab anymore, or there's just been we got all in and now we're kind of a little tired, or there isn't the audience, that they thought. And I think probably temporary, and that probably happened with other social networks after. I mean, because we're not even a year into Blab, we're not even a year into Periscope. And Periscope seems to be growing, although I don't really follow the numbers that closely on Periscope. But it's got Twitter behind it. It's got the deal with Apple TV. I mean, I think people were betting on one or the other. They're gonna bet on Periscope. But Blab is so unique because there's nothing else really like it, right? I mean, when you now look back on Google Hangouts, that's so clunky in comparison. I mean, this is so smooth. It makes it so easy. I mean, businesses could use this for internal collaboration if there was some sort of, password protected firewall around it, right? I mean, what a great way for people to get on and deliver a message to employees around the country, or for virtual teams of 4 to 6 to 8 people to get on and take turns speaking while commenting in the chat box. I mean, any other system is going to be so much more complicated to integrate that provides this kind of functionality. I mean, that's the genius of Blab. I sound like I'm doing an advertisement. I have no stock in Blab. They're not a sponsor or anything. I mean, but I think it's amazing. And if people don't want to use it right now, that's fine, because we'll continue enjoying it. Yeah, exactly.
Well, and I think it's like anything else. What you get out of Blab is directly proportional to what you put into it. And there are plenty of people that are all in. They dive in and they're doing a show a day, and they're headed for burnout. That it's just not sustainable. So it's figuring out, what does a sustainable plan look like for you with live streaming video, with whether it's Blab, whether it's Periscope? And how can you maintain that, whether it's just you or maybe a team of 3, whatever your team looks like, what can you actually commit to? And then with anything, which relates back to me talking about the strategy, you've got to be able to see an ROI. So what is your goal with Blab? And I'll tell you, with Post Planner, we've had huge success. We had, over 400 people on our last Blab. We have had 200, 300 on every single one. So it really takes an understanding of who your audience is. What do they want to hear from you? What are they talking about? It goes back to the basics of marketing. What problems do you solve? And how are you going to do that through Blab? And then how are you going to leverage all of the content that you already have? So for us, for example, we have all of these marketing assets we're creating, like an infographic or an ebook. And we make sure that we always tie something into our Blab of the week. And then, we're trying to come up with creative ways to direct people over to that content. So you really have to be strategic and think about, why am I using this marketing platform? And just like anything else in social media, how is it supporting my overall goals? How is it helping me get to where I want to be? And is it moving me closer, or is it just sucking up a whole lot of my time and my energy when I could be focused on something else? Because to be honest, like you said, based on the people that are using Blab, they don't have the bandwidth to put a whole lot of time and energy into something that they're not getting something out of. And I think at the end of the day, for lack of a better term, nobody has the time to waste on something that is not, like I said, supporting those goals within your business. So I think you have to think long and hard about, hey, it's 2016. Where is your time best spent?
So you think that probably building an email list is a big factor in getting all that attendance, right? Because not only are people going from Blab to Post Planner and downloading content and signing up, but they're getting emails and they're getting notifications because they signed up, which is drawing people from the email list, right, to the Blabs, who then may become customers if they hadn't become customers yet, as they learn more about how to use different tools and use different things with social media. So just give us a brief overview of Post Planner for people who aren't familiar with it and how it can help them with their social media management.
Yeah, certainly. So Post Planner is a social media management tool, and it helps you find, plan, and post content. But the big differentiator within Post Planner is the algorithm and the fact that it allows you to be predictable within your social media. And I think we hear that term thrown around a lot, data driven. How do I know what's working and what's not? And that's exactly what Post Planner does. It takes a look at how popular content has already been. So how has it performed across social media already? And it allows you to take a look at that and say, oh, well, okay, this has got 4 stars based on the algorithm, or 5 stars. And so it has performed already very well. And instead of just randomly going out there and grabbing content to share, you're informed. You know exactly, what you're sharing, how it's done before. And then it also allows you to pull in all of your other content. So, for example, I see Darren's here from ProBlogger, so I can pull in Darren's RSS feed, and then I can quickly and easily just share that. I could go in every single day, take a look at, what's been posted, and then just get that kind of queued up and scheduled. Yeah, exactly. It's like, yes. But yeah, it's one of those ways for us to automate a little bit within our world, and to the point where it allows you to feel a little bit more organized, where you have all of your content in one location instead of being spread out. Like I know, we can all start to feel with the many, many different tools that are out there. And then also help you be more predictive, as I said, in the type of content that you're putting out there.
So you also host, as we mentioned, influencer chat on Twitter. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit about what's involved in running a Twitter chat? That's a question I get a lot. I've been a guest on Twitter chats. I've hosted maybe 1 or 2. But I'd love to know from your perspective what you think makes a good host of a Twitter chat, and how you handle that volume of activity during the hour and stay sane and be able to still get your thoughts out. Like, if you can share just even a taste of that secret sauce, I'm sure a lot of people would love to know.
Yeah. Oh, most definitely. Yeah. I absolutely love being involved in chats. And so Influencer Chat, and Tran and I had started that. We founded that last year in, I think, March was our first chat. And then we had brought Diana Adams on board, and the 3 of us kind of co-manage that. But there's a lot to it. Everything from, coming up and identifying what those topics are going to be, to whether or not you're going to have guests on, which we don't do a lot of that because that's just a whole nother level of management. Coming up with all of the Q&A. So beforehand, we write out, we have 10 different questions for every chat every week. And then we have 3 to 4 answers within that we're coming up with. So it's a lot of content that you have to create, along with all of the 3 to 4 answers to each question. Yeah. And then on top of that, you've got, all of your visuals so that you're promoting across all of your social channels. And then, like you alluded to, there's a lot of management on the night of. So we kind of divide and conquer, where Ann takes half of it and I take half of it. So we will each man the Influencer Chat Twitter handle, as well as our own personal Twitter handle at the same time. She's probably got a totally different way of doing it than I do. I have it going on 2 different screens. I'm running both of them, in 2 different browsers. And it gets a little hectic. You know, we have anywhere from 2,000 to 2,500 tweets that go on in an hour. So it can be a little crazy trying to keep up on all of it. But that's why it's so important to have a system in place and be prepared ahead of the time, have everything ready to go. We don't schedule anything out during the chat. That is all totally live, 100%, the three of us. And then Diana is amazing at just really getting the community involved and getting out there and just interacting with everybody, responding to people, asking questions with all of the phenomenal responses that come at us. So, just from a very simplistic level, getting involved with Twitter chats can be a huge boost to your brand. Right. If you can find, one, maybe two that you can become pretty consistent in showing up with on a weekly basis, you start to build a tribe. You start to build that community of people that gets to know you, that starts to better understand what you're all about, and then hopefully wants to learn a little bit more about you, wants to learn about your business, maybe, share your content. So it can be a great, great opportunity just to get involved in, even if you don't run one. And I would not suggest that unless you're, again, pretty clear on why you're doing it, because they're a huge time commitment.
Right.
But a whole lot of fun. I love them.
Yeah. And I think that's interesting what you said, that you guys do the whole thing in real time. You don't schedule the questions to just run at a certain time or line up your answers ahead of time. Because it's amazing. Like you said, Diana will have these visuals that go or these links to other content that'll come right in the answer as she's engaging and answering the questions. I'm like, where did that come from? Oh, I always wondered, do you guys schedule that ahead of time or not? That's just amazing.
We don't schedule, but we do write out, like I said, so we're coming up with the questions, writing out the answers. So that part of it, but that, frees us up to be able to tweet and interact in real time, as you said.
And it's impossible to see every single tweet, right? During a Twitter chat.
Yeah.
You have to you do the best you can, right? But it's, you're sort of like, oh my God, I want to respond to everybody. And now it's time for the next question.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And we all try to stay on probably an hour after, just trying to follow up and see what we missed.
Right.
So, but you're right. Yeah, it's tough.
So we have an open seat. We actually have 2 open seats. If anybody wants to jump in and ask Rebekah a question about their video marketing, about Twitter chats, about Post Planner, social media strategy. Rebekah, what are some of the big challenges that the people that you work with have? What do you hear when it comes to running, managing, creating content, anything to do with social media or video or visual marketing? What are you hearing? What are the challenges? I'm sure one big one is how do I find time to do all this stuff? It's probably a big one that you hear a lot. But what are some of, either that one or other ones? What do you get a lot from people that you work with?
Well, yeah, I think that's a big one, is where do you find the time? Where do you fit it all in? And then how do you manage all of those moving pieces? So how do you simplify what it is you need to be doing and make it as easy as possible so you can stick with it? And beyond that, I think it's, where do I even begin? How do I know what type of content I should create, or how do I know what type of content I should share? So really understanding what your topics are and who your target market is. There's just so much to it these days than there ever has been before. And yet at the same time, there's still a lot of those basics that are still included. So I think a lot of the challenges today are really no different than 2-3 years ago, but now it's just at a faster pace, at a higher level, and everybody's struggling to keep up.
Yeah.
Hello there, Mitch.
Hello, Rebecca. Hello, Ross. I was getting ready to call it a day. I'm down here in Orange County, Rebecca, and I clicked in. I saw the link, and I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. I've got to watch this. What a great interview.
Yay!
This is all about depth, right?
Yeah, thanks so much for hopping on, Mitch. How you been?
Oh, fantastic. If it was any better, it'd be illegal, Ross. It's a great day. I'm enjoying it. So listen, it's interesting. Things in business, as crazy as things are now, and there's so much going on, it's always been that way. I mean, for the last 20 or 30 years, there's been a lot going on, and you just kind of have to pick and choose which path you're going to go down. And one thing, Rebecca, that struck me as you were talking a little bit about live streaming in response to Ross's questions, Blab, Periscope, and some of the other platforms. My thought or my question for you is, where do you draw the line with, okay, Blab may not have a huge audience now, and instead of looking at that as a negative aspect, and I'm not saying you are, but one might look at that as an opportunity to be an early adopter, an early user of a platform, whether it's Periscope or Blab, and to rise above the noise and develop your own brand, develop your own image because it's a newer platform. How do you balance those two concerns, maybe for a small business and some of the larger businesses that you might be interacting with?
I think there's a couple of things there. I think it goes back to knowing your limitations, what your bandwidth is, and how much time you can actually put into something. And then, like any other marketing initiative, you have to know what your time frame is going to be. How much time are you going to be willing to put into something so you can truly identify if it's working or not? Because that's another challenge we see all the time, which is, oh, well, I'm going to give a couple weeks to it, and then I'm going to, feel like nothing's really happening and I'm not getting anything out of it, so I'm going to give up. And then I'm going to say, Blab doesn't work. Because I didn't get anything out of it. So you have to know what your commitment is going to be as well.
It just seems to me that this. I'm sorry, Ross. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, it just seems to me like, for example, this is the perfect platform, Rebecca, for someone like you. In other words, I've read your blog post. I've never heard. Up until, let's just say, the last year, I never heard you on a podcast or on a live stream before, but I read your blog and followed what you were doing. I think for me, and maybe a lot of people, seeing you interact on live video, listening to your voice, watching how you carry yourself, listening to your message, I think it's powerful. I mean, I think it's really, really powerful. And, maybe by repurposing this content, as I'm sure you're already doing, on your blabs and sharing it on your blog post and sharing it across your social platforms, this to me seems like a great way to really show the human side of who you are and who Ross is and who I am to the general consumer. I think, it's a marathon, definitely.
Right.
Yeah, but, I couldn't agree more with you on how powerful it is just to take that next step with people, because for so many, that's all we've done. We've interacted on Facebook or we've read each other's blogs, never had the chance to hear you speak. And then all of a sudden, I get to listen to you and hear your thoughts on a particular topic. And it elevates my perception of you. And I think that's probably what you're alluding to. And that is where the power for so many, I don't care what size you are, small business or large brand, where that comes in, because you do have that ability now to go a little bit deeper, to create that more meaningful relationship where maybe it was just surface level before and you didn't know as much, about each other. And now all of a sudden, I'm hearing from, your own mouth how you feel about a particular subject or what you're an expert on. So,
I think it's the closest way. I mean, it's other than meeting in person or maybe a one-on-one phone conversation, it's the closest way to get a sense for what somebody's about. And, you can't on a blog post see them smile or hear them laugh or, don't get the whole tone of what a question is, whether it's sarcastic, whether it's serious, whatever. Big picture. So one of the great things is you feel like you get to know people and you feel like you're making a much deeper connection with your followers, with your contacts, with your friends. Is there a downside in that sometimes we think through live streaming, because it is so friendly and it is so seemingly personal, that maybe we know people better than we do, and that we make maybe business decisions that we shouldn't make? Is there a negative? Is there something that, because certainly this comfortable format can lead people to say things that later they may regret, if their boss or their, somebody, their clients. But, is there also something to be concerned about in that sometimes we get a sense that, you're still not, it's still not the same as reading somebody in person, right? In reading them in face-to-face contact.
Look, all I know is I did a Periscope this morning. The fox is in the hen house type of Periscope, warning consumers about internet fraud and crime. And I didn't discuss anybody or anything in particular, but yes, I think it's a huge opportunity for more digital foxes to get their paws into more digital hen houses. And so consumers need to be very careful about who they trust, about doing their due diligence before doing business with somebody. And once again, though, I actually think, for example, when I'm watching Rebekah being interviewed, I feel like I'm getting a much better sense of who she is and where she's coming from than if I was just reading her static blog posts. I mean, for me, now everybody digests information differently, but when I'm picking juries, that's one thing I'm very good at and have been good at over the last 30 years is I'm very good at instantly talking to somebody, figuring them out instantly, and determining whether or not I want them on my jury. So for me, the visual connection is really important, but that's not the case for everyone. I don't know, Rebekah, what do you think?
Is that an innate skill, or is that something that you work to develop?
Dude, I don't know. I'm sure it's something that you can learn, and there are experts out there that will teach you how to read body language and read someone's expression and everything else. And I'm sure it's all of the above, but after 3 decades of doing it, it just kind of clicks. It's hard for me to explain. I'm sure you guys know what I mean.
Oh, I couldn't agree more with you. And I am just like you. I would much rather watch somebody, listen to somebody, be able to actually hear them talk about what I've been reading maybe on their blog. And I remember when, YouTube was just really taking off, and all of a sudden you could listen to all these people that you had only read their book, or you had, only, and it was so exciting to be able to hear them for the first time. So I have to believe that I think the majority of us are just created that way, that we're visual creatures, and love to, consume, whether it's a visual, it's a video, our content that way. But I think we also are all striving for connection. That's exactly what social media is about. And whatever the live streaming platform is, it just takes that connection to a whole new level, and allows us to do that, like you said, in a way that I don't think we can get in any other type of format. I could read your blog all day long. It is nowhere near you talking about that exact topic right here on Blab, or, doing it on a podcast even, where I can hear you, might not be able to see you, but at least I'm getting a sense of who you are and what you're all about.
So many great comments in the chat box too. I can't catch every single one as they go by, but just amazing stuff. And Vicky McFadden mentioned podcasting, and I do think through audio, and this may be my bias from my radio background, but I do think through audio you can get a strong sense of a person's personality and what they know and can talk about. Because even though I had followed Rebekah on Twitter and her Twitter chats and looked at her blogs and stuff, I actually, before I ever saw her on video, I attended a couple of the Post Planner webinars, and that was strictly audio. But by listening to her on audio, I could immediately get a sense of how deep her knowledge was about what she was talking about. And it wasn't just a case of recycling sort of the conventional wisdom, but the depth of the presentation and the way she reacted spontaneously to questions and things like that. So that's a positive for audio. But but on the other side that you get with video is, how many times have you listened to somebody like on the radio or whatever, and you had an image of them, and then you see them in person, on TV or something, and they look nothing like, they're nothing like what you expected. They sounded like they're 59-year-old guy smoking a cigar, and you turn on your like skinny 25-year-old who just happened to have very old voice or whatever. And so it's like, on one hand you can certainly tell personality and knowledge to a certain extent, but on the other hand, there's nothing like seeing people, and that's the beauty of live streaming.
I'm going to pop off because I just wanted to say hi and let Rebekah know how much I appreciate her work, and Ross, and say hi to you. It's interesting, before I go, I used to fly hang gliders back in the day with a very well-known local FM DJ in Tucson, Arizona, and his name was Alan Browning. And whenever we'd fly and we'd run into people, he was a celebrity in town, people would come up and they'd recognize his voice, right? Because he had this deep FM rock and roll voice. And they're like, "You're Alan Browning?" And it's not the way he didn't look the way people pictured him. Great guy and everything. I don't know what they were picturing. So it's really cool. Now, a couple of thoughts, and I don't know if this goes into your show.
I'm going to totally interrupt you for 1 second, because you just made me laugh. My husband was in morning radio for 20 years, and his joke always was, "I remember the disappointment in meeting my first DJ." Because it is exactly that. You never envision what these people look like.
Isn't it true? They've got that deep voice. It's interesting. Couple of thoughts, and I'm not a marketing expert. I'm just an attorney that enjoys trying to show my human side on the different platforms. That's why I love this stuff, because for the first time, people can connect with maybe me, where there's always been hurdles with doing that in the past. And I'm in the middle of a blog post, and I'm going to get off and listen to you guys respond to this, but I'm in the middle of a blog post talking about why I'm not going to be continuing my email newsletter anymore. And this is a newsletter that we've had for about 12 years. We've got thousands of people on the newsletter. A lot of people read it every week, but you know what? I don't enjoy writing it. I don't enjoy doing it anymore. I have gotten much more engagement and interaction on the live streaming platforms, on some of the other things that I do. And so I'm going to pick and choose, because of the time thing that Rebekah was talking about. We only have so much time. Life's too short. I think we have to do what we enjoy doing. But I also think just having 2 young kids and a lot of millennial clients, they're not reading newsletters. Okay, they're not even reading blog posts. They're Snapchatting, they're Instagramming, they're starting to pick up on the live streaming platforms. There's a different mindset out there than what I think a lot of top marketers are telling people to do. And either I'm out of touch with what works, or I'm not buying into the mass advice that's being given out there. So I'm just curious, Ross and Rebekah, what your thoughts are on that. Do you see a change, or a change in the trend of what consumers, especially younger consumers, are digesting when it comes to information? Does it depend on what companies you're representing, or is it a combination of all the above? But I'm going to bounce out and just say it was nice meeting you, Rebekah, and Ross, thanks for having me on the show.
Thanks. Great question, you, Mitch. And
really
Mitch
nice
hosts the show.live. The show.live, Mondays, 2 p.m. Eastern. So check that out. Rebekah, I'll let you take a shot at the question. See you later, Mitch.
See you later. I think he made mention of the direction I would have gone with that, which is, first of all, it all depends on who your market is. Obviously, if you're marketing to 20-year-olds as opposed to 50-year-olds, it's going to be, a very different demographic, a very different group of people that you're marketing to, and their use of social media is probably going to be very different. How they consume information is going to be very different. It's interesting to see these, and I'm going to date myself now, these kids, that have grown up with texting and with social media, and what a different world than how we grew up, Ross, and what we had that we grew up with. We had to learn to embrace it, it's, for so many, it's all they've known. So you can imagine that how we communicate with people dependent on not just their age, but their industry, and are dependent on your industry. Are they embracing social media? Are they early adopters? Are they innovators by nature? Or are they slower to adopt? So it's really understanding who these people are that you're looking to try to connect with, and then identifying where are they spending their time, where are they hanging out, and how can I best get my information in front of them. I would tell you that I don't think email marketing is dead. I don't think newsletters are necessarily dead. However, I think they've probably changed dramatically, over the last several years. And so it's all in the positioning of that content too.
But, of course, also nobody ever really signs up for the newsletter, right? They're always signing up for the 10 tips to market better, or, 5 things to know to host a great blab, or what. They're not really signing up to read the newsletter. And the open rates aren't what they once were, I wouldn't think, but yet they're still effective. And I'm sure not, obviously your following has a big to do with why you can get a lot of eyeballs to a blab. But I'm sure the email list also is also helping in that, and so it's also leading to business for you. So I think it depends, right? Yeah. I mean, I shouldn't talk for you, but I'm just saying, I think that could be a case. It depends on what business you're in. If Mitch has a full slate of clients, if he's he's got maybe you have to pick and choose that which you enjoy doing versus that which you don't, because there's only so many hours in the day, and, doing what you are passionate about or what you enjoy doing may ultimately lead to that extra, that extra client or that extra business opportunity that you really want, versus doing something that you're not that keen on doing. And, it kind of shows through when you really like doing something. And Mitch does great content through live streaming that, he could do the same thing in a blog post, but he communicates so effectively through live streaming that he stands out amongst live streamers, where the blog market and the newsletter market is obviously so crowded. But I would assume for you that email marketing is a very essential part of what you do.
Oh my goodness. Yes, absolutely. And I think I've talked about that many times on, definitely on my blog, just in creating that email list and cultivating that community, that following of people that they become an extension of your business, a marketing extension. And you made such a great point about just knowing where your time is best spent. And if you are limited in how much time you can spend, you need to know, okay, first of all, what's my highest and best? So where should I be working and focusing 90% of my time every single day? And I need to eliminate everything else that's not in that 90%. That's, not sales generating, that's not contributing to the growth of my business. And then you need to start to look at who are those relationships that I can create with exceptionally talented people that can help me create those great graphics, or help me do some video within my business. Because, something we haven't really talked about, but my goodness, there's a lot of people that aren't comfortable with video, that don't want to jump into video, or just don't enjoy it. And to that, I would say, find a way to use video within your business, but don't put yourself into a situation where you don't enjoy it, which means you're not going to keep up with it. It's not something that you're going to maintain over the long term. So why start it anyway? Figure out a better way to, maybe repurpose some of your content into shorter videos, or to turn some presentations into videos. So there's lots of different ways that you can get into these different areas without putting yourself into a situation where you're overworked, you're stressed, you've taken on too much, and now there's no way you're going to be able to keep up with it.
And nobody says that you have to do a nevsletter to build an email list, right? I mean, you can still have an email list that you let know about live streams, about, an event coming up or whatever, and not have to worry about, filling it up with blog posts and videos and different things, right? I mean, you could still keep that list that you use to stay in touch with people without having to do the newsletter. We assume that email list means newsletter, but email marketing doesn't have to be newsletter.
I have never done a newsletter ever. So no, definitely does not. The important thing is that you're staying in front of your email list and that you're offering valuable information. So if you're just putting out a newsletter for the sake of pushing content out, you're doing it for the exact wrong reasons. If you can't look at that, and the question I ask myself, with everything I put out there is, as my audience, why should I care? Prove to me why I should care, why I should take action on that content, why I should download it, why I should click on it, why I should read it. And it's just like that with your newsletter, with anything else. If you can't answer that question, then you should scrap it, or at least put it on the back burner until you can find a good answer to it.
Well, as Geraldo says, he did just purchase 2 items from 2 different newsletters that he opted into. So, his example shows that they're not dead either. So there's a lot of different valid ways to go. Anyway, we're up against the top of the hour. Thank you so much, Rebekah. It's amazing talking to you. I'm so glad we had a chance to talk. I hope we can continue the conversation offline at some point. And I really appreciate you taking the time. It's RebekahRadice.com. She's CMO for Post Planner. Check them out as well. And she works with Relay. Thanks to them for stopping by. Chocolate Johnny's here. A lot of great people stopping by. Thanks to Mitch for coming on. And also, we have a new website for the show, livestreamstars.tv. Livestreamstars.tv. I haven't added an email opt-in yet, so I've got to make that decision as well. Next week, Vincenzo Landino joins us. Vincenzo Landino from the Brand Boost podcast will be here. Thanks again, Rebekah, and everybody have a great evening and a great week.
Thank you, Ross. Bye-bye.